they say all men are created equal. Shot! Master! I'll pull out the Glock! Full of suffering, succotash, son!
It's one of your nuts hanging out of your shorts.
Real glass!
You have a father, but your father's dead.
Hi guys, welcome back to Too Sweet with Lucy and Estelle. This week, we've already done a Dynamite review this week. It was just me solo, but Estelle is back. Welcome back, so glad to have you. Today we're going to be doing like our September sort of special episode that we try and do monthly. Sorry, it's kind of late in the month, but we're doing a Q&A, which I think will be really fun. We've had a lot of really good questions. I was quite surprised, and also some of them have got me thinking deep. So thank you everyone who sent in a question. So we're going to try and cover as many as we can. I'm sure we'll probably get through them all. Hopefully this time next week we might be able to do the Mr Mcmahon Netflix documentary. Have you started watching that?
I'm 2 episodes deep.
Yeah, I'm 1 episode deep.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting so far. I've been making a few notes as I've gone along, so I'm excited to talk about it because there's definitely a lot to talk about. But initial impressions are, it's kind of like a dark side of the ring summary of WWE, and it's recorded and it's been produced in a way that it's for non-wrestling fans.
That is
because I've seen a lot of discourse online about, well, nothing new came out, and it's like, well, what
do you expect?
What more? Yeah, like, did you think they were gonna bare all the skeletons in his closet? Like, obviously not. But there's definitely like some semi-new information. But I think it's good that it's like just from 2 episodes. Like, I think it's good that it's comprehensive, and that if you weren't a wrestling fan, you'd be absolutely fucking every 2 minutes you'd be shocked. But we're just desensitized. You know what I mean?
I think that says a lot about wrestling fandom in general, doesn't it? Like, we're just, like you said, desensitized to all this shit. But as an outsider, like, watching that, you'd be like, God, how many scandals? Like, yeah, you're so right. I think it's probably not the wrestling fan is the target audience, so wrestling fans watching it are a bit like, this sucks, nothing new. It's like, well, like you said, it's not like a deep investigation, like we're uncovering, exposing new stuff. That's not really the point of it. But nonetheless, it is good. Of the 1 episode I've watched so far, I have enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, that'll be like our October review. So,
we'll get into the questions then. So the first one is, I think it's something we've maybe talked about on the podcast before, but I can't even remember at this point. But it's, how did we get into wrestling? So do you wanna start us off?
yeah, I believe probably kind of started at, like, talking about this when we did the tier ranking. It was like our first ever episode, but yeah, a long time ago. So for me personally, there was a lot of different avenues that made me get into wrestling. It wasn't necessarily one thing. So growing up, I was always sort of surrounded by it, even if I wasn't watching it actively. It was always on at my grandparents' house, Nana and Granddad. Nana especially always had it on. Huge Edge fan. Shouting at the TV, and I'd be there most weekends. Growing up, just various family members watching it, like various family members, and they talk about it. I remember, like, who would win, the Great Khali or Randy Orton, like shit like that, and we just talk about it and
family dinners.
Family dinners and shit. Yeah, just I don't know, but for me, how do I put this? My mum left her then partner at the time, and we moved back to Yorkshire, which is where I'm originally from. We were living in Manchester, and we all moved into my auntie's house. It was very overcrowded, and just a bit of a tumultuous time. But during that time as well, it was 2011, and I was with my cousins who, like I say, watched wrestling, and that kind of became a really regular part of my routine, even though before it was just something that would be on and I was aware of, like, the characters, the wrestlers, the storylines. But I've fully got immersed with CM Punk, and I think it was like lightning in a bottle. It just struck me right at that time when I needed that escapism. And what a person to to gravitate towards. Like I always said, for me, like I was never the John Cena kid. I was never people think I was a Jeff Hardy girl. Hell no. Like I never gravitated towards those natural baby faces. Like for me, it was the grittiness of punk, and like we've always talked about, his movie then came out, and his
Yeah,
the man,
shit on Blu-ray.
the man, yeah, the man behind the fucking persona, like it all just connected to me on like a deep emotional level. So, and also, when I was a kid during one Christmas party or New Year party at that house, one of my cousins had a WWE annual, and I read the comic strip of Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker locked in the bathroom. That
Oh,
is another like
oh no,
core
locked in
memory.
the bathroom. It
Yeah,
seemed pretty
no,
wholesome.
like I was just so enthralled by it. I didn't want
Yeah,
anyone to know I was reading it. And I was just like, what happened? This is scandalous. So, like that was actually my first time living that match, was through a fucking annual comic book. And
oh, it's so weird what sticks with you, isn't it? Like what stuff you remember, stupid stuff like a fucking comic strip.
yeah, so I think it was like that, and then just leading on from there, um, like I said, I was a WWE fan, and I just wanted to know at that point, like when I was 11, I just to know everything
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, it's like your brain can't consume this fast enough. You want to watch every single piece of media you can get your hands on. You want to read it all. You want to, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, consume everything. So that happened, and then during 2014, 15, um, when it was probably like after when CM Punk left, I became like a bit disillusioned with WWE in general, and then I discovered Lucha Underground, Black and Gold NXT was popping, so then I got into that, um, and I think went a level deeper in the fandom, and then
Yeah,
probably 2016, 17, New Japan starts popping off, Black and Gold NXT. And when I'm talking about Black and Gold NXT, I'm talking about very early days Black and Gold NXT, when it really was just WWE proteges. But then the second wave, when they scooped up all the Ring of Honor talent, the UK scene, um, and as I say, New Japan as well, and hearing about Kenny Omega and Five Stars and Dave Meltzer, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And then that just like blew my mind, and I
and
think
it
that
changed your
is
brain
kind of the
chemistry.
same. Yeah, that was kind of like the same wrestling fan that I've been since like 2016 to now.
Yeah.
I think I've like had the same taste sort of thing since then. That's really when it developed. But that's just sort of my journey of being a fan. What about yourself?
It's weird how similar it is to yours. And I think yeah, there's definitely parallels to what you just said. So, family talking about it and being really into it. So, my uncle was a big fan throughout the 80s when he was growing up, and also like the Attitude Era and stuff when he had his son. So, he would talk about it all the time, and like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and stuff. And like obviously everyone back in the day used to watch that, so that would, and my uncle has this tendency to like grab the TV remote and just put whatever he wants on the TV and force everyone to watch it. So he'd do that with like random YouTube videos and stuff. So it'd be like, oh, sit and watch this, and it was Giant Haystacks versus Big Daddy, or it was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, like stuff like that. So that's where I first got exposed to it, and I've got two older cousins, like his kids, who because of him they got into it, like I say, like the Attitude Era and sort of early 2000s ruthless aggression. And I just remember like them explaining to me that wrestling is fake, except when they do it in a cage, and that's real. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Something with that stuck with me. Like I didn't really get into it as much as they did at the same time as them, but it just stuck with me for some reason. And when I was, yeah, 2011, like I think the same as you, like I just for some reason started watching it and getting into it. But I was very much like sort of a bit embarrassed about it, and a bit sort of, oh, I don't want anyone to know that I love wrestling. And I was really into CM Punk, and I loved Sheamus as well, and I loved fucking Zack Ryder. So I did like the baby faces. And then CM Punk turned heel. That kind of switched me off wrestling, because I was at that age where I was like, no, I don't want to see my favorite being a bad guy, because I love him. So I did sort of switch off for a bit, sort of maybe 2013 I wasn't really watching, and then 2014 I went back into it, and that's when I went deep, like you said, like wanting to consume everything. So it was WWE, it was NXT, it was bits of TNA and Ring of Honor and like everything that I could get my eyeballs on really. And that's when I joined Twitter, and it just, for better or for worse, I was, just getting deep in these conversations on Twitter. And to be honest, like I did meet a lot of really good internet friends at that time as well, just through wrestling, and we had a group chat, and we're still friends to this day. That was 10 years ago. It's crazy. It doesn't feel like all that time has passed, because like you say, it's not. I've not really changed since then. Obviously, I have a lot, but a lot of the my favorite wrestlers are still the same. I still have that same sort of like passion and wonder about wrestling, and maybe it's just not as intense because it was like when you're a kid and you first get into something, it's like this is my DNA, and I am not going to talk or think about anything else. I guess I sort of still am like that, but yeah, it just kind of carried on over the years, and yeah, I tried to watch a little bit of Japan as well, and it was just like all my free time was just watching wrestling. Um, and yeah, here we are today.
Yeah.
Gotta
We always
gotta
talk
blame my
about that,
uncle
don't
for
we?
that.
Like as kids, well, like teenagers, that we would dedicate about 20 hours of the week to
Yeah,
wrestling. And you didn't miss out. You didn't miss out. Like you'd watch Raw. Tuesday was NXT and Lucha Underground. You'd watch TNA, you'd watch SmackDown, fucking even main event. You just
yeah,
could not consume enough. It was never enough. And I'd even go back and I'd watch compilations on YouTube.
yeah.
I I just
Watch the
needed to consume.
documentaries.
Yeah, and not even like good shit. Like I was obsessed with like rewatching all Lay Cool's greatest moments and the Divas of
Yeah,
Doom and shit like that.
yeah,
Um, but also, I want to just touch upon the fact that you said about like the wonder of wrestling, and something that sometimes makes me a bit sentimental is that nostalgia and the power of nostalgia in wrestling. And I'm so
yeah,
grateful to myself that I became a fan as a child. That even, you talk about ruthless aggression, like I wasn't as switched on to it back then, but I've still got those memories. I've still got such core memories of watching peak Triple H,
yeah,
the Belt Collector. I've got such firm memories of that, and I'm so grateful to that. And it's kind of cheesy, but you know, it's like wrestling. Like we're not cheesy. We're never like really like grateful for it, or we complain a lot, we moan a lot, we
mm,
don't we yeah, we focus in on the negative, I think. But I just love how I have this thing that throughout my whole life I can always escape with.
I think the turning point for me, and I think I've definitely talked about this on the podcast before, is when I got my own TV in my bedroom, and then I could just
Yeah,
watch it all the time without anyone wanting to change the channel. I did feel judged for it, but I loved it so much that even though I felt a little bit embarrassed at first, I was still gonna do it. I was just not being open about it. So yeah, definitely was, yeah, grateful to my younger self for that, for just for sticking it out, and like even, yeah, I did go through the phase where I was embarrassed about it for some reason. I don't really know why, but don't know where that came from. But I was still, so like, I don't want to say strong enough, but just able to get past that. And then it wasn't long after that I was just completely owning it and just being publicly a massive nerd about it. So
yeah. And also I think like we're at an age now where I never thought do you remember being like 12, 13, 14, and you just like the fresh talent of that time, like the fucking Shield and even bloody Sheamus, and
yeah,
CM Punk and all these people, and you'd get the legends come on screen, Raw 1000, and you'd be like, this is so cool. But
yeah,
you couldn't ever imagine like the people that you were watching becoming the legacy acts. And now we're at a point where the people that we grew up with are the mentors and are the veterans. And
yeah.
it's just absolutely blows my mind. And like again,
It's
like it just makes me
yeah,
so grateful to have, it's like almost like you grow up with them in a
yeah,
sense.
definitely. It's sad as well, isn't it? Because John Cena is an example going on his retirement tour like in 2025. And I spent most of my early years complaining about how much I hated him because that was the cool thing to do back then. And now I'm like, no, don't go, John Cena.
Yeah.
Yeah, time changes everything. And also, like, who would have thought, like, that just because you mentioned the Shield and they were a formative part of me, and that, like, who would have thought what's happened with them now? Mox isn't even in the same fucking company, and but that's okay. That's actually a good thing, and we're happy about it. Like, you would have
Yeah.
told that to 14-year-old me, I probably would have cried. So, yeah. Um, unless there's anything you wanted to add, I think the next question sort of carries on from that
Yeah.
quite nicely, which is, what was the first wrestling event you attended?
So mine was SmackDown Live. So Raw, CM Punk and The Shield were on SmackDown at that time. And my mum had bought the tickets. She was like, "Oh, like I'm so sorry. Like, we thought CM Punk was going to be doing both dates because it was like the brand split." But I was ecstatic to just be seeing The Shield and pretty thin on the old star power. But at the time, it was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." Um, and yeah, I mean, I got to see the Shield, so like as you say, it's a formative part of my youth. So that was a pretty cool experience, and I was lucky enough to be like kind of semi ringside, like not right at the front, but like
Wow,
yeah, we were ringside as well. So
that's
it
so
was it was
cool.
really yeah, it was really really mind blowing.
I I
Yeah,
think that seeing the wrestlers like up close like is so mind blowing, especially like WWE because it's so polished and like the lights and they're so muscly and they're so much taller in real life. That blew
yeah,
my mind like one of the first times. Like because the first WWE live event I went to, I was really far back, so it didn't almost didn't feel real, but still to me it was the coolest thing ever. So then when I got close, I was like, oh my God, it's like HD. It's the the three-dimensional, like, what is this? I can see the droplets of
yeah, they're
sweat.
actually real. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to think like how close I was to like Roman Reigns and like his stock now. And I'm not saying that those tickets would have been cheap, but my God, they will be a hell of a lot cheaper than what I'm imagining house shows are for fucking SmackDown nowadays, for
Yeah,
those
no
same
doubt.
seats. So it's pretty crazy that I had that experience. And then the next one wasn't until All In, which is quite hilarious. So
Wow.
it's like SmackDown Sheffield fucking 2000. I can't remember. It would have been around when 2K13 came out, so I reckon it
Yeah.
was like early 2013. And then yeah, pretty much 10 years later is
Wow.
when I went to. Well, obviously I went to a few indie shows, but
Yeah.
do
Um,
they count? I don't know.
yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. My I recently found out what my first wrestling show was. I didn't know this about my own life, but my mother told me that when I was about 4, and we went to like a Haven holiday park in, I think it was Berwick or something, which if you're not familiar is like it's like everyone lives in a caravan and it's just a holiday park, and I don't think they have those in the US, but they're really popular in the UK, and like it's quite cheap and you all the kids can go watch theater and shit, and like there's usually mascots dressed up as tigers and whatever, and there's like a swimming pool, just a place where
Lucy trying to
families take the
explain the
kids.
Tiger Club.
How do I explain Haven holidays to people who've never experienced it? Just Google it and you'll see what I mean. Anyway, so I went to one of these when I was about 4, which I do remember this holiday really clearly, but I don't remember the wrestling show that I apparently went to. And my mum recently told me about this because, like, I think she follows me on Twitter and I put something on, like, oh my God, my very first wrestling event was, I think it was 10 years ago, in 2014, I thought it was. She was like, no, wrong. Your first wrestling event was in 2004, actually. So yeah, apparently that was my first wrestling show. I do not remember it. But maybe that's where it all began. The one that I actually do remember was it was an indie wrestling event, and it was called American Wrestling, and it was in a theatre in Barrow-in-Furness, and I forced my best friend to come with me, and it was really shit. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, it was really shit. It was one of the travelling companies, and they had basically had like rip off WWE people. So I remember there was like Road Warrior and there was someone pretending to be Australian and shit like this. and I just really sucked. But to me, it was the coolest thing ever, and I was so delighted to be there, and I felt so blessed to be present. And then my next one after that was a SmackDown Live event in
Oh,
Manchester, and that was 2015 because the Shield had definitely broke up, and I got to see Dean Ambrose. But like you said, it was pretty thin on talent. I remember Becky Lynch was there. I think Becky fought Charlotte, and I remember American Alpha with Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, and Lucha Bros. Not Lucha Bros. Who were they? What were they called in WWE?
Lucha
Lucha
Bros.
Bros. Penta was there. No,
It was
I can't
pretty thin
remember
on
what they were
talent,
called.
guys.
They go like this, Lucha, Lucha. Them ones were there.
Callista,
Yeah, can't remember what their tag team was called.
Sin Cara,
Yeah, them two.
Lucha House Party.
Was that it? That
Lucha,
fucking
someone would call Lucha House Party. What a shite name.
something like that. So yeah, and again, like I was up in the rafters, but that was like the best thing that ever
Were you
happened.
luchaing?
No, I was booing them. I remember like feeling like I was so cool and so
You
special and
mad.
different because I was booing them, and everyone else was cheering. Um, yeah, and then the next one after that was KOW, and that was again local to me. But that was a really good indie promotion. That was wrestling done well,
Mm.
and yeah, that was like the beginning of actually getting into doing stuff in wrestling. So that was very special. That was 2018, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I lied. My first wrestling event was Butlins.
Yes, you see,
Because
our
like I
journeys are
think
so
about it.
parallel.
And I remember the babyface was called Domino. I remember
All
cheering
right.
for Domino.
That
Yeah.
sounds like it could be a luchador. Was he wearing a mask? Like I can just imagine
I
him
don't
wearing like
think
a
so.
like a mask
Maybe.
with
But it's like we
spots on
talked
it.
about when certain people came to come visit you and they thought that the commentators you could hear them and like at Butlins because
Yeah,
I remember the announcer being very clear in my mind going Domino, oh he's coming but Domino like it's so clear in my mind and he was probably fighting someone of I think it was like Germanic descent and obviously they
right.
were the heel
Sure, yeah. Um,
some Nazi undertones some I don't
yeah, most likely.
it
Some,
was the 2000s like
yeah,
we were still in that kind of era.
yeah.
But
Yeah, it's the compares. That's a very traveling wrestling company thing to have someone on the mic being like, "Come on, guys, let's cheer him on." Oh, he's gone for the cover, one, two, and it's not like on a headset. He's in a microphone.
yeah.
He's saying this to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
crowd to
yeah.
get him involved. Because normally like these like they do holiday camps, like that's their full-time job. Like wrestlers in the UK, like doing the holiday camps is sort of like a rite of passage. So people like Daniel Bra Brian Danielson and William Regal, for example, two very famous people who've done them. Um, and yeah, they just travel around the UK, just doing loads of different locations every night in these holiday parks where people haven't paid to watch them wrestle. They paid to come to this holiday park, and this is just some free entertainment that they put on, which I think is a brilliant phenomenon, and I freaking love that about Britain. What an integral piece of British culture. So anyway, the next question is, who are your favourite and least favourite wrestlers of all time? Which is quite
This is
broad.
such like a difficult question because I feel like there's so many wrestlers that I love.
Yeah,
How do you narrow it down? Do you know what I mean? Um,
for sure. I think for
do you want to
me,
start?
yeah, I have like a handful of ones who always come to mind for me. Um, Roddy Piper. There's something about the way he cut promos that like resonated with me when I was a kid, and that's always sort of stuck with me. CM Punk, obviously, we talk about him a lot, don't we? John Moxley, Claudio, of course, AJ Lee, Lita, Trish. Oh, there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot. I could. It's like how do you narrow it down to the? It's when people say of all time because then I'm thinking deep, like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like ones who had the most impact on me growing up. So yes, there's loads of legends that I could talk about, but it's you know a lot of people probably wouldn't consider, I don't know, like Claudio in the best of all time, but to me, he is, because that's just who I grew up really, really liking, and I still do, and I think he's very good.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like the only way you can really answer that type of question is through, like I said, that emotional connection, that nostalgia. So for me, from early childhood, it'd have to be, as I said before, Edge, just via proxy. He was,
Yeah,
say, Nana was chanting along for
that's so
Edge, you know what I
wholesome.
mean?
I love
Like,
that.
yeah, and then Triple H struck a real chord with me when I was younger. I don't know, it was just so fucking cool. One of my favorite matches of all time, Shawn Michaels Triple H 2002, like that kind of era. Did you know what I mean? Like early 2000s
Yeah,
DX and his belt collector evolution. Like God,
DX was
Triple
so
H,
cool
man,
back in the day as well. That was like
they really
peak
were.
of being edgy and wrestling is cool culture, I think.
Yeah, even though it was just like riding the fucking tailgates of like the actual Attitude Era and then real scratch to
Mhm.
PG, but it was a great time. You felt like you knew them. Do you know what I mean? You felt like you knew
Yeah,
what they were talking about, like all these uncles.
that is so true. You just felt like they were your besties.
And then like you say, CM Punk. Oh, it's difficult. And then I guess like Kenny, as we all know, Jay White. Um, I don't know, like of the recent. How could I forget the Young Bucks? How could I forget? How could I forget? I just go on. Takahashi, fucking Naito, fucking Hangman, Swerve, Jeff Jarrett, JBL, Sandman, Raven, Lita, Trish, AJ Lee, Britt Baker, like fucking Lucha Bros, Penta. I mean, the list goes on and on
Yeah,
and
for real,
on, quite
for
frankly.
real. The ones that I thought to add to mine would probably be Eddie Guerrero as well. And oh, I had it a second ago. I wanted to add Naomi as
No,
well, because especially like
yeah.
when, yeah, I remember being really drunk one night and in my living room, and SmackDown came on, and then Naomi had to relinquish her SmackDown Women's Championship, and I was so drunk that like I couldn't see straight, and I was crying, and that was like a very real
Core
memory.
memory.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the
But
more fun
opinions
part.
change,
Well,
don't they?
yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
Like I'm thinking as well, like Black and Gold NXT, and when
Oh,
Paige first came up,
oh,
and how
yeah.
what's the like formative that was, but then now what we think of Saraya, it's wrestling is very, you know,
And you, Zack Sabre Jr. as well. I think he's amazing. Um, what about least favorite?
R-Truth. I can't stand him. Hate
I knew
R-Truth.
you were gonna say
And I
actress.
love JBL, the most controversial opinions. He's not funny. He's never been. It's like I didn't find you funny. I didn't find you entertaining. Like it's just, oh my God, R-Truth, man. He just something about him. Lil Jimmy, like oh, I
Oh,
can't
I
stand
loved
him.
that shit. When I was a kid, I was eating that up. I thought it
No,
was the like peak of humor.
the random ass luchadors on Collision hologram. Sammy
Hologram.
Guevara. I
Yes,
hate Sammy Guevara.
Sammy's on my list of least favorite for sure. And you know what?
Darby, it's a bit of a love hate.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking Dabby as well. I feel like it'd be harsh to say he's one of my least favorite wrestlers of all time, but he's down there. He's down there. And you know what? Chris Jericho. And I know that like
Yeah,
he
and he
he
used to be like on my favorite as well. You know, talking about changes, like when I was talking about growing up, like Chris Jericho in that era of Edge and how the hell could I forget The Undertaker?
yeah,
The
right.
Undertaker is like one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like
Brock
crazy.
Lesnar is one of my least favorite wrestlers of all time. Never seen the appeal in Brock Lesnar. I just nah, he
Well,
can
you know,
fuck off.
I was a big Brock Lesnar fan way back.
Really. I remember when he
Yeah,
returned and it was like, whoa, it's so
scary.
cool.
It was scary
Yeah,
when he returned, and like I remember that
killing
promo. It's just
everyone.
stupid shit that sticks out to your brain. But when he was like threatening Stephanie McMahon and her kids, And then Triple H
Yeah,
had to come out, and then they had the match, and it was so lame. But at the time, it really struck a nerve with me. I don't
that's
know.
maybe why I
I found
hate
it really
him.
compelling.
That's maybe why I don't like him because I remember that and it's just stuck with me. And he wasn't he breaking Stephanie's arm or something? He was going around breaking everyone's arm, wasn't he? I think, if I remember right. Um,
Alberto Del Rio. I
oh,
hate Alberto
potentially.
Del Rio, and he used to
I
scare
liked
me as
him.
well.
I don't know why. I liked him when I was a kid, and I didn't even know why I liked him. I just did for no reason.
That's weird.
I
I've
don't
always
anymore.
hated him. I've always had bad vibes.
Mm.
He tried to
You
break
were
CM
correct.
Punk's arm one time, and I think I still was in my thinking wrestling was real era. So
Yeah,
he really terrified me growing up.
stuff like that did feel real at the time. I remember. I can't remember who it was who, like, put Big Show's ankle in a steel chair and then like did a leg drop on it. I was like, oh my god, he's actually broke his ankle.
Literally. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of people that I don't. Serena Deeb. I don't know. Just there's so many pointless like NPCs that I could think of. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard. It's hard because because we review AEW every bloody week. Like that's where my brain goes to. But yeah, you
Yeah,
go back into the nostalgia vaults, and it's like, who did I hate growing up?
and there's a lot of people in WWE who I don't like, but because I don't really watch that on the regular, I can't remember. It doesn't spring to mind. Because I just remember I get used to get really pissed off watching WWE because there was a whole list of people who I was like, I hate you. Um, but
Yeah,
Chris Jericho is like one of those who's like, I appreciate he's been in the business for a long time, but the main reason don't like him is because of the storyline he had with CM Punk, where he was like pouring alcohol all over him and like making him do the sobriety test and their big feud, and that's never left me, and I hate him for that.
me with Jeff Hardy,
Yeah,
and I've always found him overrated because of that.
it
Like I've
just
just always
changes
found
your
him
brain,
extremely
doesn't it?
overrated. Like yeah. Yeah, Jeff Hardy for me. I didn't understand the appeal. Like even as a little kid, I was like, why are we cheering for the guy that's off his face? Like the heel is making more sense to me as like a child. I'm like, why? Yeah, like why are we endorsing this? But yeah, I don't know. I just want to go back and just quickly just give a few more flowers to the Undertaker because like
Yeah,
favorite
fair.
wrestler growing up and like just you talk about crying to Naomi. There's very few times I've cried at wrestling. I think the only times I've cried at wrestling have been The Undertaker. The
Yeah,
Undertaker when he went against Roman Reigns, he put his gloves uh and the hat and that in the ring. I'm bawled at that and I bawled at his documentary and I just the Phenom, do you know what I mean? Like, oh,
it's
the
immortal.
Undertaker,
You
dude.
can't
He's
understate
immortal.
the impact of that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's why I also didn't like Brock Lesnar when he broke the streak.
Oh yeah, I've got still got a grudge about that.
Yeah.
Also, Brian Danielson's definitely. Did I mention him before? I,
No.
as a favorite, not least favorite, obviously.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? 'Cause there's so many least favorites, but it's like you say, you forget about them. So,
That's the essence of them being your least favorite. Is that hopefully you don't have to think about them all that often. Um, I hate Logan Paul as well. And I know
fair.
that people are like, oh, he's a really good wrestler. No matter what you think about him, you have to admit he's a good wrestler. It's like, no, I think he's shit. I think he can fuck off. And I think wrestling would be better off without him. He's another one yeah, definitely do not like. I love and sort of hate the next question at the same time, which is cringiest phase in your wrestling fandom. And boy, where do you even start with this? There's been a lot.
Phase or phrase?
Phase.
Because I misread it as phrase. I was thinking of cringy
Oh,
phrases.
okay. Well, we can do both. What
Okay.
craziest phrases have you got?
Well, I was just thinking about how I don't like people talking about demographics. I don't like on one side there's no Millie, which is the one I wrote down. I hate that. There's just something about it, like 'cause obviously AW used to get a million. It's like no Millie friend, and it just something about it just makes my skin crawl. On the opposite end, I don't like people who are like, oh, 600K, that's amazing. 400K drop off from last year. That's fantastic. And also I hate like people being like these are more Reddit specific, but it's just like people being like, that was so much fun. Like, yeah, I know that like no we only sold like 2,000 tickets and yeah, I know that all the arena was tapped up, but wasn't it fun? And I hate banger and dream match as well. Mainly just because the offense has taken it and ran with it, but what a banger. Wasn't that fun? Like it just fucking kills me.
You
So,
know, the thing that comes to mind with that is I find it really cringe when Tony Khan tweets
big announcers.
justified this is awesome chants, and he does it every single time there's a this is awesome chant on any AEW program ever. That really cringes me out. It's like, Tony, find something new to tweet, my dude. Just anything else. That gets me.
I hate the big special announcement. Tony Khan has a huge announcement next week.
It's like,
It's just awful.
who cares? Um, yeah. I love you spin on this question because that is misreading
I
it
just
has
literally
made
just
that
misread
more.
it. I think I've got a bit of dyslexia. It's not something.
I like it. I like it. Because there is a lot of cringy phrases in wrestling. Oh my God, I could go into so many like
Hardest
cliches, but
part of the ring.
yeah, commentator cliches. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that. You do find yourself like, oh my God, I was doing a backstage interview once and I fucking wanted to die because basically the angle was that one of the wrestlers like got really injured and got sent to a hospital. And we did loads of takes of
A
it 'cause we
local medical facility.
yeah, we couldn't get
That's
it
not what you
right. And
said.
on one of the takes, I just found myself saying local medical facility. On every other one of the takes, I'd said hospital. And then I said that, and that's the take that they ended up using. I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh yeah, all those cringe Vince isms that yeah, where certain phrases were superstar.
Yeah.
Superstar, dude. That was crazy. This is kind of a phase as well, like that dark era of the Vince, like you can't say belt.
Oh my God, yeah. Divas. They're not women. God, that was
Oh
dark.
my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that does sort of coincide with my cringiest phase in my wrestling fandom, which was probably the 2011, 2012 phase, where it was like very sort of uncool. Like, I love CM Punk so much.
That was cool to like CM Punk in
Yeah, but
2011.
in no, but what I mean is I made it uncool because of the way I was. And I don't know, just like I'd be like drawing shit pictures in my notebook
I'm
and
the
writing,
voice of the voiceless.
yeah, writing fan fiction and this nonsense. And I was probably like commenting on YouTube videos like stupid shit. Like, don't whoever let me, my mother, 10-year-old Lucy on the internet, just stop. Don't, don't, don't do that. That was
Yeah,
very
I have
cringe.
a great fan fiction that I wrote when I was 12 that where random people were dying.
Oh yeah, I remember
They all had
this.
to live in a hotel, and their biggest concern was that WWE got shut down and they were going to have to go to TNA. So stupid. We'll have to read out excerpts. Maybe that could be an episode of reading out
Oh my God.
excerpts from that fucking fanfiction because
What an
it's just
amazing
class.
idea that is.
It's
Yeah,
just class.
let,
Like the
let,
main characters are like AJ Lee, Dolph Ziggler, Tamina, Randy Orton. It's just so stupid.
oh my God, that is such a great idea. Please let us know in the comments if you want to hear Styles fan fiction, and we'll react to that. Um, because don't let her fool you. I read this and it was fucking enthralling. It was like a murder mystery mixed in with drama.
But it
Yeah,
was very clearly being written as it went. Like it was so obvious I didn't know who the killer was.
yeah. Because I remember
Oh,
asking you like, "Oh my God, so who was the killer in the end?" And you were like, "I don't know."
oh, so fucking stupid. But yeah, I see what you mean, like that era, and like I say, like I was obsessed with the divas, and I
Yeah,
proper
me
bought
too.
into it. Like,
I loved
yeah,
Layla. I
I
think I
loved
mentioned
Layla
this on
too.
the, I'm
Layla
sure I
cool.
mentioned this on the podcast, like when I found out Layla was British, I was like, oh my God, she's just me. She's just so me. We have one thing in common. I love you.
Yeah. Oh my, I think like yeah, the Shield era. That's like that's dark days.
Yeah. There was a lot of angsty fan fiction around that time. And
Oh
edits as
God.
well. I used to have an Instagram account where I'd make like edits and
I used to have an Instagram account and I'd just save the photos and edit them really badly with like max saturation and
yeah.
I used to just
I had
let's
an
just lad that
account.
account because it was so funny.
I'm sure mine's. I've had various, and they're probably all still up there. My digital footprint is disgusting. Um, yeah, I just like find screenshots on Google of wrestlers and just post it. No capturing it out, just post it.
Yeah.
But then
Literally
moving
like really
on,
badly edited.
a few
Uh,
years later, that's when I
no.
got into edits
Oh,
and shit.
I don't know if I should share this actually, but I went through this phase, right?
You
So
can
this is
choose
like
to
proper
edit it out
early.
if you want.
This is like proper early wrestling days, and I used to buy songs on like iTunes. I begged my mum, like, "Oh, can I have Christian Cage's?"
Yeah.
I used to go on DeviantArt, and I used to find images of Mario characters, and then I used to go on Windows Movie Maker, and I used to edit them to the WWE songs. And one of them was "Close Your Eyes." And it was like a Bowser Princess Peach fucking edit to close your eyes. I think that's probably the most cringiest thing.
What
Oh my God.
what's the correlation between these? I love this cross fandom like crossovers you didn't know you needed. Bowser and Peach. Christian, just close your eyes. Did you like upload these to the internet or
No,
was
it's
this?
YouTube.
I wonder if anyone watched them. Are they still
They
up?
must have done.
Link in the
Oh, not
caption. I'm
anymore. They,
joking.
they must have gone now, but yeah, there you go. That's like the worst, I
Um,
think.
there was something like what was I gonna say? There was something I can't remember now. There was something that I was gonna add that it's gone. It's gone. I can't remember.
It's
It
gone.
it wasn't that cringe. No, it definitely was. It definitely was. What a great question. Um, but also made me remember the days, dark days of being a child and thinking you're cool, and actually you just cringe as fuck. Um, and so the next question, I really like this question. I think it's a really intriguing one and a interesting one. Is there something you changed your mind on recently? Could be in or out of wrestling. There is one thing that came to mind with this for me, and it is like using blood in wrestling and deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah.
So I did go through. I think for the most part of being a wrestling fan, I thought it was really gross. And I think that was probably just from watching WWE, and you don't see it a lot. Like when I was watching the weekly television as I was growing up, it just wasn't really a thing. And then in AEW, especially like Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes, I don't know, that's the one that sticks out to me. And they were pissing blood all over the spot. And I just remember thinking, that's disgusting and I don't want to see that. And I find that really off-putting. Um, but I've changed my mind on that recently because there's been some really great matches where it's it has added to it. And Swerve versus Hangman being the main one that really changed my mind. I was like, this is amazing. This is one of the most beautiful things I've ever watched. And I don't think, well, I do think it is disgusting, but in a good way. Instead of
Mm.
I'm repulsed, don't want to watch this sort of way. And it was more of I'm intrigued by this. Um, so yeah, I've done a whole 180 on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just week by week I change my mind and it's not in a flippant way. It's just I think I just see I as a person I'm very open to being challenged. I'm very
Yeah,
open to in an intelligent way, of course. But
yeah,
like
I
if
think
someone was to challenge my opinions, like I'm quite flexible in that. I think maybe just realizing maybe it's not about being critical or it's not about being negative. It's just maybe like the logistics and the business side of wrestling and AEW is a project being very ambitious and it's lovely to make everyone happy and it's lovely to be a good boss and to be I mean to be a friend to your employees, but is that actually the right thing? And like as much as like creative freedom is great, the overindulgence of certain ideas and certain creative and the politics of that yeah, yeah, I mean it's definitely made me look at wrestling in a different way, and there are things that I do think WWE does better, and there are reasons why WWE will always be the bigger product and better in certain parts. And just talking about PR, because we talked about that in the past, and
Yeah.
Tony Khan's style of PR. And on the surface, I'm like, fuck yeah, say what you want, like be controversial, be that person. This is what wrestling's all about. But then I don't know, like getting older, it just that corporate mindset maybe a little bit more of actually like sponsors, money.
Yeah,
I,
but
I don't know. I'm not really like, maybe explaining it very well, but
no,
I
I
think
know
my
what you
philosophy
mean.
has kind of changed and become a bit more like I don't know what the word be like mature or a bit more like things are more nuanced
Yeah.
and I think just more business minded, I think, and less considerate about other people's feelings. Because sometimes on this podcast, like I will just say shit like this person's shit, but it just is what it is. Like I just think like becoming more blunter as well. And
Definitely. Yeah, that's
yeah,
something like I I think I've I think it's a positive thing that I've tried to become more like assertive and more sure of myself. I've definitely got more confident and like instead of trying to appease people, it's like, no, this is what I think, or you can't treat me like shit. I'm gonna tell you what I think, sort of thing. Um, that I think yeah, I think that's sort of changed my mind on. No, I don't want to be liked. Although I do want to be liked, but I'm not at the expense of myself um, and things. And I appreciate like what you mean about PR and AEW, and that I guess WWE is more polished and it's more aware of like the public appearance and stuff. And yeah, I think like on the surface, like it seems cool the way AEW do it, and they give less of a fuck. And there's advantages and disadvantages to it. But yeah, that's something we've talked about a lot on. I think it was the review of Dynamite where they just aired the footage from um
yeah,
when Jack Perry and CM Punk had that fight. It's like, why? Why do we do that? Yeah, that's
yeah.
something we
And I
look
mean,
into.
just like just at the start, like, oh, it's so nice that these stars are coming and they're getting to face like talent like I can't remember an example, but just like it's nice that they get into face newer, fresher talent, and that's going to put them over. But then, when Adam Copeland debuted in his first match was against Luchasaurus, and while it's like logical, it's just like, is that the biggest draw? And I
Yeah,
think just being less about the philosophy of having fun and more about the philosophy of like what's beneficial, what's like going to get the biggest draw, and that's kind of in conflict with AEW's interests the majority of the time. So I think that, and then just like individual wrestlers, like I was saying earlier, like fucking Paige and like her journey.
back in 2015, I think was sort of her peak in NXT. I loved her, and I thought she was one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. And just her AEW run, it's made me just more lukewarm on her, and I'm like, which is a shame, and I don't want to not like people and stuff, but you can't help but feel, sometimes you just get a bit disillusioned when someone maybe
Yeah,
just isn't as good as they used to be, or they're just not putting on as great matches and it doesn't live up to your expectations. I think there is a bit of
it's very
nostalgia with that as
exposing, isn't
well.
it?
Yeah, for sure.
AEW is very, it's a very exposing environment. I think as well for me, and I'm sure for you, just my a changing of opinions on CM Punk. Like I always said before, we last who my favorite wrestlers were CM Punk, Kenny Omega. Like I'd always send two in the same sentence. Now I can very confidently say it's Kenny Omega. If that was the Q&A question, who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Kenny Omega. Very easy for me to say that. But yeah, it's but that was difficult, and that was like a case of being disillusioned and exposed. And I'm not saying like I'm too cunning and all this, like screw that, but I can't believe that if you'd have told me like 10 years ago or whatever, oh, CM Punk's gonna come back and he's gonna be on WWE and you're not gonna watch it, you're not gonna like, yeah, I might see the odd match, I might see the odd clip, but I don't follow his career like super closely, and that I think would have blown my mind if I told past me that I can
Yeah,
take it or leave it.
100%. Yeah, that is very good point. Because I'm the same. I do try and keep up with WWE, but I'm not tuning in, you know, eyes peeled, dead excited every week. I used to bloody stay up for Raw on a school night and be so excited about seeing my favorite wrestlers on there, but especially CM Punk, and now it's just like if I watch, I might stick the highlights on YouTube on, but I'm not really paying that much attention, and I'll watch a pay-per-view match. And I do think that his feud with Drew McIntyre has been good, but yeah, it's exactly like what you said. It's just like sort of really take it or leave it.
Yeah, and I think it's a better way to be as a wrestling fan is to be flexible and not
Yeah.
be so not fucking flippant. Like we discussed that as well. Like people who 1 minute are like this person's the greatest person, now this person's the worst. But I mean, with some people, some angles, some feuds, some eras in wrestling, whatever it may be, I think it's just better to take not necessarily the middle road, but just take it as it comes because things change in wrestling so fast. Look at
Yeah.
Roman Reigns. Do you know what I mean? Like things change so fast and people's views and people's opinions change so fast
Yeah.
and I'm aware of that. So I think like I always try to kind of remain sort of open minded and have the ability to be challenged, I think.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And it's like exactly what you said about it's being open-minded, not being stubborn and like dead set. My opinion is right and my opinion is fact, but also at the same time, like just changing it on a whim. Like my opinion is fact, and I, for example, think John Cena is the best wrestler in the world. Then the next day you hear a rumor and you're like, my opinion is fact. He's the worst wrestler in the world. It's like if you sort of sit not on the fence, but like have an opinion, but like I said, be willing to be challenged, be willing to change that, be flexible and adaptive to what happens because it's so changeable. Wrestling's so changeable. Um, you never know what's going to happen or what's going to come out about someone that's going to make you not like them anymore. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing about wrestling. It's subjective, and that's why we have so many podcasts. People talk about it all the time, and people want to share their opinions, and that's the one of the best things about it, I think. Um, and I liked how this person said could be in or out of wrestling. I recently changed my mind about Apple Maps, and this was mainly thanks to Estelle. Google Maps is way better. Apple Maps fucking sucks. Get Google Maps on your phone. If you've got an iPhone and you don't already, because that shit is better.
Fair. Mine's Justin Bieber. I love Justin Bieber.
You know what? How cool was it to hate on him when we were like
Exactly, like
11,
the heat that
12?
Justin Bieber used to get. No, because thing is, right, I was a believer, and then and then it became uncool. So I was like, oh, like, I don't want people to know I love Justin Bieber. Then like I just didn't really think about Justin Bieber that much. And then like I think it was like maybe last year I was just like, God, Justin Bieber, man. His voice is so good, bro. And do you know what? Like, it's so funny because that just isn't my music taste. Like, I listen to everything, but like mainly like alternative music. But do you know what? Justin Bieber, he's got a special place in my heart.
Some
So
of
that's my
those
outside of
old,
wrestling opinion.
some of those old songs are bangers. Like old school
Yeah.
Justin Bieber bangers. Yeah, that's fair. And I was always one of those kids who like pretended to hate him, but I did secretly
Deep
like his
down,
music. Yeah.
that's the best part about being older. It's like also I used to hate like One Direction. I'm not like One Direction. I mean Justin like this, but you know, like I couldn't allow myself to enjoy those songs.
Yeah.
I know that's like the opposite for you, big directioner. But like for me, like I
Yeah.
couldn't be seen to be enjoying it. Like I had to like be like, oh, get this off. But you know, it's just great, like getting older and just being able to like embrace it. Do you know what I mean? Embrace the basicness.
That's so
That
true.
that's
And
my big thing. Just be a basic bitch.
yeah, a lot of my adulthood has just been healing my inner child and just embracing those things that I was into when I was 12 and being like, I still love these things. An example being One Direction. I never got to see them when they were a group, but like I've gone to see all of them, most of them individually now. And that's like
Mm.
in my 20s. Dan and Phil, for example, still in Dan and Phil, and wrestling. And I like, if I want to go to a wrestling event, I'm gonna go to it, even if I have to go by myself. Like, it's not uncool. I'm just doing what makes me happy. And yeah, I'm. I wish like my younger self would just embrace it sooner and be happy and
Yeah. And I think like we were saying, like tournament wrestling and things like that. It's a bit different if it's a big build up for a big match at, I don't fucking know, like all in or something, and then it ends in a roll up. I mean, there's a way to do it and stuff like that. But I don't know, the one thing that just sticks in my mind that I've just always, and maybe this is like links into cringe things in wrestling, but I've just always hated a big catch tope.
yeah.
Just does nothing for me. Like I just hate it. Like I don't know. I understand like obviously it's to be safe and stuff, but it looks shite.
Just go head first into the fucking barricade, guys.
And
Just
I
look,
hate when they get a sledgehammer out and they don't use, and I understand why. Like this isn't like
you can't be
technicality
hitting
of
people
the
with a
wrestling
sledgehammer.
match, which I'm sure is what the question actually meant. But I hate when there's like weapons and they don't use the weapons in the most logical way. And that's why I loved when the Willow and Stat match, when she was handcuffing her, and Willow wasn't just letting her handcuff her, she was fighting back. And she had to be hit in the face several times to go down. I'm like, that's logical. I really hate that. You mainly see it in TV street fights. Like I say, the sledgehammer, and then they poke them, they like jab them with the wooden bit rather than just bashing them on the head. And I understand that
Yeah,
that would probably kill them, but like then I'm like, don't use a fucking sledgehammer then because it's
exactly.
exposing.
Yes, that is so valid. It's like, why else have you got this really dangerous weapon? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Yeah, I agree with the ones that you said. I also agree with what the person said about like false finishes, like superplexes. It's like a big deal, but no one ever wins with them. And I also think that about signature moves. So like I don't know, like a wrestler's got a whole bank of moves. Obviously, you've got your signatures and you've got your finisher, and the finisher normally ends the match. But like when commentary's acting like your signature can end the match, like oh my god, is this it? But they've never ever won a match with that move.
Yeah.
And it's just like maybe every now and then they could win the match with that move. Um, I did like how Claudio recently won a match with the swing because he doesn't normally. He normally just does it, and it's sort of like a showmanship thing. I can't remember when exactly it was, but yeah, he ended up winning the match with it. I was like, that's a surprise, and I'm pleasantly surprised by that. Let's have that a little bit more often. Just like if you got these signature moves, why shouldn't they win? I I get it. Your finishers, you building up to a really huge finish, and you've got to have like your anticipation, like your near falls and stuff. But yeah, more signature moves that actually win matches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one for me as well is this is more of a WWE thing. Um, I just think that they've been overdoing that spot where people get speared through the barricade, um, by the timekeepers area, and like there's a big
Mm.
guy stood there, and then someone runs around the ring and spears them through it. That's just been overdone. And I remember,
Overdone spots are a big one.
yeah, and it's like at one point that was cool, but it's not anymore because you've done it so many times, and it's a shame because that could be quite impactful and awesome if you just sprinkled it every now and then. But no, it's on Raw pretty much all the time. That pisses me off.
It was like going through the commentary desk though, because there's a point where that it's kind of gone
Yeah,
round back around, I think, to being cool. But there was a point where like every week someone was going through that bloody commentary desk.
yeah, yeah, they were, and it just loses all meaning. I still think I don't even think that's really that cool. I think probably because of that is going through the commentary desk. It's never a spot that's really impressed me, to be honest, because you just know it's gonna collapse.
Yeah, I hated how during that spot they'd always take off the monitors, and I'm like, but why? Like then it just shows that like you're trying to protect the expensive monitors, but I'm like, it would hurt more.
Yeah.
Surely, if you did it on the monitors. I don't know. It's just like it's just the things that you do to suspend the belief. I do feel like the original question I was asking like more of a technicality change in the
Mm.
match, but I honestly can't think because I'm just a hater. You're just a hater, and I'm just thinking about things that I hate.
Well, it's interpretable, isn't it? The other thing that I thought of was I really dislike it when people and again you're probably right, it's probably not answering the question, but I really dislike it when someone's going for like a move that requires the opponent to hold themselves in a certain position, like hold themselves up
That
in.
tree of woe, that's
Yes.
awful. That
It's so stupid. It's like why you are baiting the other person to do this? Just fucking move.
literally. Yeah, pretty much that is pretty much like but I guess I think the sledgehammer is like my biggest one. Like if I could eradicate that, I think that'd make me the most happy.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Is you got a deadly weapon? Just fucking cave the skull in, or don't use it at all. So should we go on to the next question then?
Yeah.
If you were to start your own promotion today, who would you build your company's divisions around? So who is your world champion, tag team champions, women's world champion, and women's tag team champions?
So the way I sort of thought about this is I didn't think about like just favorites. I thought about like who's gonna gain the clout. Like I'm building a fucking company, I need the chance.
Business brains.
My world champion at first was going to be Kenny Omega because I love him and I just want him to be world champion. I want him to be selfish. I want him to have that big run. But we
Yeah,
don't. My worry is we don't know what Kenny we're going to get when he comes back. And my fear is he might be just, I'm so grateful to be back and not injured. And I just want to put on bangers of matches. And I'm still going to respect that because I think he's earned that. I think like you deserve that. Do you know what I mean? Like you've earned the
yeah,
ability to do whatever the fuck you want. But it is a bit of a concern of mine because I hope that with the time that he's had off, that they really cook something up that's hot, and there's so many hot things he could go into. Just all that to say, really, that that's why I'm a bit uncertain. So I put the safest bet, MJF.
fair.
MJF is just fucking like w w you don't need to worry about what MJF you're gonna get. MJF is gonna show up. He's
Yeah,
gonna be the top the top dog. And I think a lot of people have been hating on him lately, but I think that's just because of the way the bidding war turned out. And because he chose to re-sign with AEW, people like, oh, well, WWE would have never been interested in him. They weren't that interested in him. He thinks his stock's better than it is. And it's like, you're a fucking moron. I'm sorry, you are a fucking moron. Like, people who hate on MJF, like, I'm sorry, do you know what? Talking about stubborn opinions, no, like, you're just stupid. Like, you are genuinely just stupid. It's like saying Kenny Omega's a bad wrestler. There's certain nuances and things that you can have opinions on, like, oh, I find his promos a bit repetitive, or um, Kenny's book and stuff. But to say stuff like that, it actually makes me angry because, like, shut up.
yeah, I
World
agree.
champion MJF. What's your world champion? We'll run down it one by one.
Well, I sort of took a little bit of a different approach to this because thinking about like the world of wrestling in like 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 big famous wrestlers, I found that a bit daunting to approach as a question. So I thought of it more on like a micro realistic level if I actually was to start a promotion
Oh,
in
I like it.
the
I have like
UK.
big dreams. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got money, baby. Like
Yeah.
fucking Tony Khan.
I-
Like I'm dashing out.
I'm sure that's probably what the person meant, and I tried to think that way, but it was too intimidating for me. So
I like it. I like it.
I've thought if I started a promotion today in the UK, in my part of the world, which is in the northwest of England, who realistically would I do? Would I like, stick on the card? And I've put world champ as Mr. RPD, RP
Did think
David.
that's what you were gonna say. I
Yeah.
did think.
So if I guess people listening probably chances are they're probably not familiar. He's an indie wrestler. He used to be a boxer. That's all you really need to know about him. But he's very good in the ring, and people love him. He's a big draw, and I think people do buy tickets to see him. So I was thinking in a similar way to you, like business wise, like he's definitely a draw. He's definitely reliable. He'd bring in the money. and he's a good person to build stories around, I think. So that was my pick. But I agree with MJF
Yeah.
though. If we think like if me and you were working together on that big, we had all the money in the world and we were making the third wrestling company, MJF all the
Which
way.
our wrestling company would be the best.
It would. It'd
It
be
just
better
would.
than because clearly we've got it all sorted out.
Well, then for tag, I think like when you start a new tag division, it needs to be exciting, hot, basically trying to replicate early AEW tag
Yeah.
division, to be honest with you. And what better way to replicate it than with the Lucha Bros, obviously, a hot topic at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
or I was thinking some kind of iteration of LIJ. Very much enjoy them, so we could snatch them up as a faction and have them in tag wrestling. That would make me very, very happy. And I think yeah, but they have great work rate. Put on some fucking banging matches, some banger fun matches. But that's what you want from a tag division. You know, that's what you need. It gives you that release, I think, in the card. So yeah, that was my thought process there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you got to restore the feeling. Old school, old school AEW. Yeah. Uh, I put Reese and Rogan, who I believe were in that match that you saw, and you said it's one of your favorite matches that you've seen live.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're tag team specialists. They work together as a team. Like that's what they do. They do occasionally do like solo, but they specialize in tag team wrestling, so they're very good at it. They're great heels. I've not seen them work face, I don't think. So I think I'd do them as the monster heels of the division. And again, reliable and people love to hit them. And you can easily create a nice foil for them. So yeah.
yeah, sounds good. So for the women's tag, I was thinking, you want to like again, you want to restore the feeling. So
Yeah.
I'm going down nostalgia, and I think a Bella Twins reunion. I think that would
Yes.
draw. I think
I think
people
you're
would enjoy
right.
that for a very short period of time. I think that would draw. Or my other one was Bailey and Sasha, because I think that would also like the nostalgia would pop hard for that. And
Oh my
I
God,
wouldn't have him
yes.
holding the belt for long, but I'd have him come back, and then you can have the new challenges and da da da. And just I just think it'd be a bit of fun.
That's a brilliant idea because then, yeah, because it's like they're the veterans and they come in and they set the tone and then you have the new people come and face them. And they could bring in a new audience because then you've got the Total Divas audience coming in for them. You've got a completely different audience coming for the Lucha Bros. I'm here for that. The variety,
Yeah.
that is what we need. Um, so for me, thinking of women's tag champs, I've put Natalie Sykes and Rio. I think these two have sort of tagged in the past, and I think you could build like a nice story between them. And they're both really good. They're just both really good, and I really like them. And that was kind of the only reason. Rio's gone viral a few times. So if you don't know her, you've maybe probably seen one of her matches go viral. She's done some really crazy stuff. If you just stick her name into YouTube, which is spelled RHIO, you'll find a plethora of things. So yeah, those two, both young but very experienced and very good.
Yep. And then for the women's, there could only be one. Again, not that I don't like this person, but if this was true to Estelle, it would be Britt Baker. But you'd all fucking moan about that. So it's got to be the one, the only Rhea Ripley for women's.
Yeah,
And I would actually book her well as well.
of
I think
course.
the draw that that woman has is insane. I'd argue the success of Dom and Judgment Day and everything. It's all Rhea Ripley. Without Rhea Ripley, none of it would go to the heights that it has gone to, and everyone's just ridden on her coattails. And that might be a bit of a hot take. Not that I think Dom's bad or anything. I think Dom's great, but I think if it hadn't been for Rhea Ripley and just as we've discussed before, like the TikTok hype and just drawing in the casual, I don't think there's any other woman that has done that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree. I think that Judgment Day would be fucking bland without her. Without her, it's just a load of guys hanging out. With her, like she gives
A
that
load
shit
of dudes.
purpose. yeah, right call in my opinion. And she's a great wrestler as well, and she's got the look, she can do the promos, she's got the draw, like, yeah, she's the whole package.
Imagine a world where we have Rhea Ripley and Max
Oh my
as
God.
the champions. And then I'm also giving you a bit of LIJ. I'm also giving you a bit of Lucha. And I'm also giving you a reunion of the Bella Twins or Sasha and Bailey.
Everyone's
Can we
eating.
just everyone's eating. We're eating good tonight. What's your
No.
women's champion?
And I don't want to hear any complaints like from about your promotion. There's no complaints to be had. There's something for everyone. So I chose Lana Austin as my women's world champ. She has been wrestling for I don't even know. I honestly don't have a clue how long, but a really, really long time. She is, again, just a massive draw. People love her. She's very good at wrestling. She's very popular. She's got the look. She's got the attitude. She's got the skills. She's got everything. Yeah, and I think she'd bring also like guidance to the locker room too, which I know she already does. And yeah, she's excellent. And I have a few other sort of name drop people who I'd have in my roster who'd be involved in these stories. I've got Harley Hudson and Leon Slater, but they are actually signed to TNA, so I probably couldn't have them. But if in an ideal world, I'd snap them up because obviously they are very good because TNA wants them. Everyone wants them. They're brilliant. Um, and I'd also add Will Carter, Big T Justice, Sam Bailey, Tony Wright, and Teddy Bray. And I feel like with that, you've got one of the strongest rosters in the UK. Get to your local indie wrestling promotion because these people are future stars.
Modern WCPW, if you will.
Oh my God, you mentioning that has reminded me, I think, what I was going to say earlier about the cringe wrestling phases of my life. WCPW, that was dark times. I was the biggest, well, I wasn't the biggest, I was a very big What Culture fangirl, and I was tweeting all the time, atting these poor people non-stop. Oh no, no, don't want to think about it. But that did lead me to my closest internet friends, who I'm still friends with today. So, like, swings and roundabouts. Sorry, tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that question. I love thinking about that. And it's not really something I want to do, start a wrestling promotion, because the stress of it all doesn't appeal to me. But think like fantasy booking, getting that career mode up, it's definitely fun.
Career mode. Oh, wrestlers we hate. They're fucking acclaimed.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Can't believe we forgot that. Go watch our vlog. If you haven't already, go watch our All In vlog and you can see that play out in real time.
yeah.
So then moving on to the last couple of questions. So this is from Andy, who's been support from the start. Thank you, Andy. And he sent this question weeks ago, and it's kind of like one of the main reasons we did this episode. It, sort of sparked the inspiration, and it's been a difficult one because we've had this long to stew on it, and I know we've both been struggling. Is with Lucy's recent BCC heartbreak, what would be your ultimate five-person faction of living or dead wrestlers? And yeah, it's similar to like the one. It's like, oh, who are your favorite like all-time wrestlers and least favorite? There's so many to choose from. How do you pick? And it's also like thinking, would they work as a faction?
Yeah.
I don't. And to me, I'm not gonna lie, like BCC sort of was that, especially when William Regal was there. I should have mentioned him before. He's one of my favorite of all time too. But the fact, if you could just add Zack Sabre Jr. to BCC, I mean that's it. But then it wasn't five-person. But I don't know. What were you thinking about this? But I saw, I don't know. There were so many people, and like I mentioned, it's like would they work together as a faction? So I decided to think of it I took a different angle to what I was originally thinking, and I thought of it like as a women's faction because I thought you don't really. I guess in the products that I watch, at least, I can't speak for all wrestling all over the world. Obviously, you don't really get like a women's version of say like the Bullet Club or something, where it's just a load of girls being badasses and beating people up
Hell
and
yeah.
being friends. And often, even if you do get something like that, they break up in the short term and it's a feud. It's just a vehicle to get them to feud, which I dislike. So, yeah, that's the way I thought about this. And when I thought, oh, what women can we put in this? I've had to cut some people out because there were so many, but and also living or dead, so I tried to think like across multiple eras as well. So I've got starting off with Dump Matsumoto because I've been watching Queen of Villains and she's fucking amazing and I couldn't leave her out. Also Bull Nakano, and I know they're from sort of the same era, but whatever. And they were also sort of a team, so you know them two are gonna work well together. Then China, AJ Lee, and Athena.
Oh,
So
oh,
yeah, so
that's
these
nice.
three sort of the last three like spanning the different like quite a lot of time period. So they all bring something a bit different, but I think they're all like badass and sort of I guess sort of challenging gender norms as well and intense in the ring and would definitely beat the shit out of anyone, male, female, or other, inside the ring in any promotion, in any era, in any part of the world. So, yeah.
Is there any kind of like dynamic about the faction? Any like storylines that you think could come of it?
Um, I think they'd support each other to get championships. So I think guess what I'm picturing is like Matsumoto and Nakano maybe going after a tag team championship, and I guess they'd be heels because yeah, that fits. You can't have Dump being a face. So they probably cheat to help them win, but dominant as well, not like chicken shit heels.
Yeah,
And then China Intercontinental champ like she was,
hell yeah.
and Athena being she's the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion of all time, I believe. So stick the strap on her, and AJ being sort of but mentally unstable, but she has her friends, and that makes her more stable and feel good. And they support each other to be successful, and they don't bloody break up after a year and all hate each other. No, that's not at all where we're going with this. They're not breaking up.
I
They're
love
just
that.
they're BFFs.
Love that.
So what about you? I
Um,
know you put a lot of thought into this. Just gonna.
so man, literally, like I've just thought about it just now because, so just take it for what it is, guys. But it's kind of supernatural, which I usually don't like. But this
Oh,
is like it's gonna be done
interesting.
right, okay? So we've got early NXT Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
He kind of starts the storyline. Um, and in this as well, like even though it's not class, like Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, they're gonna be, okay, Brody Lee, they're gonna be a part of it
Nice.
as well. As like his accomplices, and they summon the late 2000s, early 2010s Undertaker,
Mm-hmm.
who
Yep.
then becomes like the
Obviously.
leader. So there's like a bit of friction there because he summoned him to like do some dirty work, bro. And then also like 2008 CM Punk is just existing on the side.
Okay.
He's just he in this universe, right? They don't need to summon him because like you've just got to like picture the 2008 CM Punk is like in the same locker room
Okay.
as NXT fucking Bray Wyatt. So they bring him under his shoulder. And also in this locker room there's also Sandman. And Sandman's kind of like the wild card that like they just fucking set Sandman. I don't know. And then also I couldn't think of a fifth. So I just decided that I wanted to Takeshita there because I want him to get the
Okay.
rope.
Okay. I
So
like
this is like
this. This is a different route to what I expected from you because, like you said, you don't normally go down the supernatural. You're not down with that sort of thing. So
it's
this is
more
not what
like
I
a
was expecting.
culty and I don't know, like battle of like I think whereas yours would be like more to subvert conventions like of women fighting, it'd be more like supportive and people would expect the breakers would get it. With this to be a lot of tension.
I love
A
that. A lot
lot
of
of
angst.
tension. Like, but they'd stay together, but you wouldn't know who was going to turn on who. But like they'd be winning all
Yeah.
the gold, so like it would be like a mutually beneficial arrangement. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just like picture in my head like the Undertaker. He's like overtaken. Bray Wyatt's been shafted. CM Punk's like on the side. He's sowing the seeds, man. He's like sowing the seeds. He's
Yeah,
like
he's
turning
definitely
them all
stirring the
against each
pot.
other.
Yeah.
That man, they're just like, fuck it. You fuck with us, we're gonna set Sandman on you. Just because I want him to Sandman comes out. And Takeshita's just there, like in his little devil. But I think it'd be good because I think it'd like bring out like a darker side and a bit more like of a stronger character for Takeshita, a bit more menacing in,
Yeah.
in the shadows.
Definitely,
Don't know.
definitely a new angle for him, new facet to his character that I never even knew existed. Um, yeah, I love the different ways we've come at this. I think in
Yeah.
our fantasy promotion, like these two factions could exist, and
Oh
it'd
yeah,
be with all the
in the
champions that you
big
talked about.
budget one.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
was thinking in the one with the yeah, the budget one with when we've got all the money and we're
MJF's
competing.
like the champion.
Yeah,
And it's just like, yeah.
we're competing directly with AEW and WWE. We've poached the best talent and we've also brought some people back from the dead.
Yeah, and like the people that are like alive, we're bringing them back in a very specific era as well.
Yeah. We 2024 CM Punk, we don't want you. We'll press
No.
and rewind 16 years ago, specifically. Love that. Thank you, Andy, for that question. We've been stressing about that one for a while. Um, so yeah, we're sort of down to the last couple of quite quick, I think, questions. So this one, I don't even know about this one. If you were a tag team, what would be your gimmick and finisher?
Well, I think what me and Lucy'd have going on, right, is like early mid 2000s DX. So we're a bit of like a comedy act. But like when we're
Yes.
solo, we're serious. And I think
Mm.
like because one of the things that unites us is Pitbull, like we'd come out to Pitbull's music.
Yes. 100% Fireball.
I think that should be the name of the finisher.
Yeah, but what is it though?
It's the Fireball, baby.
It's the
We
Fireball.
come
You
out to
don't.
give me everything tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm down. I'm down. Um, yeah. I don't even maybe like one of us does like a cutter and then the other one does a cannonball and that's the fireball and yeah.
It's the Fireball. That's it. We get sponsored by Fireball as well. Like, you know what I mean? We can
Oh like yeah, so we've got the alcohol sponsorships, that's sort of like it's like party girls and yeah.
yeah, like oh, it's so stupid.
Um
But yeah.
I guess this is sort of related to the question that I got asked by Ant on Twitter who does a lot of filming of footage for wrestling shows. He asked me when will I do a run-in. The answer is probably never. Unless, me and Estelle
To do a
just,
Fireball.
yeah, we just do some wrestling lessons on the side and we just decide to run in and do a fireball. Um, you can just imagine what that move is. Please leave in the comments some inspiration for our finishing move. Um, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know. And the last question is so ridiculous. From Isaiah Quinn, who is a wrestler, a ridiculous wrestler. And I mean, I say that with love. Um, which time is your favorite time? Answer in a clock. Um, well, Isaiah, I quite like 1 o'clock, in the
In
afternoon
the afternoon,
because,
that's awful. That's like the worst time. That's sleepy
well,
time. And
that's normally when I take my lunch break at work, so it's just associated with food and having a little break and scrolling through my phone. So yeah, that's the only
no.
reason. What about you?
Probably like 2 a.m.
2 a.m. That's sleepy time. That's sleepy time. You said 1 p.m. is sleepy time.
That's a zoomy time. Everyone's gone to bed. It's peaceful. It's not like so late that like you feel bad for staying awake. Like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you start feeling a little bit guilty. 2 a.m., it's like that sweet spot.
You know, if I was awake at 2 a.m., I'd feel like I was starting to spiral. That's the key difference between you and me, I
I'm
think.
always spiraling, baby. So, yeah.
Well, that's all the questions I've got. So let us know in the comments what your favourite time is. And why.
Eco time.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who sent in the question. These were really pretty deep and like got me really thinking, and I had a lot of fun answering them, so thank you so much. And if you've got any others, then obviously feel free to let us know. We sometimes would answer them at like the start of a dynamite review if we've got a couple and we can get through them like pretty quick. So yeah, feel free. Yeah, and please subscribe and follow if you haven't already, and leave us a like and a rating and whatever else. Thank you so much for listening, and we really appreciate all the support, and we'll see you really soon.
I must bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night, bang!
I wish you died in the womb!